This 9 Souls boss rankings is based on how much fun and enjoyment I got fighting them from worst to best. It ain't exactly a ranking based on how they whoop my ass or how frustrating some fights can be. Although some degree of difficulty does aid to how fun a fight can be, this is more a subjective list since it orients, the fun out of fighting these bosses. Now this ranking won't include the mini bosses that repeat themselves like the first boss. It only includes the major story bosses such as the 9 Souls and a few unique ones. If I don't mention any bosses you guys can think of, then it most likely because OBS failed or corrupted my recordings on them. Or maybe I didn't include them because they are kind of like fodder, so that's that. If you haven't played the game yet, even though it's been 2 months, then I highly encourage and recommend you guys to play this game. Honest to God, it is extremely good and feels rewarding to play once you get the hang of the combat, and it does have the Sekiro parry-like system into it. Moreover, since this is the boss rankings, while I won't talk too much about the story of the game, the boss's appearance do kinda get into spoiler territory, so a word of warning for you story folks. Now, without further ado, let's get right into the video. So first on the list of the worst bosses is Great Miner Tianshou. Now, for me, this was more of a gimmick boss because in my playthrough I just used a robot, so all I had to do was like parry and then proceeded to like hit him with a robot. There was not that much to do because I was in that one corner and I was spamming that same move over and over again. So he goes down this list because, it's not really a blame on the boss himself. It's because I was presented with an option to like basically streamline the entire fight, make it easy. So there's that. Now, if the robot was taken out, maybe he would move up in the rankings in terms of fun. But the problem is that I'm not gonna play this entire game again. There's like other games out there. So yeah, Great Miner Chansao goes down in the list. Now, number 2 is early Xingtian. He is a fairly simple boss. He uses an axe and has a red attack he can dodge. And when he does the red attack, he basically drops in like a fucking bomb on you. Also, he can regenerate his health for you to, interrupt with a charge move. Other than that, there's really not that much in his moveset since it is in the early game. So, yeah, he's rank 2. Now, moving on to number 3 is Xingtian 2. Now, Xingtian 2 appears like to be the second late game boss, like before the final boss. Now, I put him this low because he has the same gimmicks like Xingtian 1, but for Xingtian 2, he is more difficult than Xingtian 1, but it's not difficult in a good way that promotes fun because he became more annoying due to the mobs. He basically almost has the same move set, at least in my experience. Debris fall every time he does that axe attack now, so whenever he spams the axe attack, a debris falls. So it doesn't really encourage you to go near him. In fact, in this fight, you don't have to, parry that much. All you have to do is just maintain your distance, just like, use your charge attacks, use your bow, Azure bow to like knock him out of his healing. And that's it. So it's like, it's like Xingtian 2 is like Xingtian 1, but like worse in some ways, better in some. Anyways, I forgot to mention, since this is the boss where you can, you can still parry, but it isn't really a big part of it. Since, you can just maintain your distance. So the boss feels like it kinda takes a bit forever. It's like a boss with like high amounts of health that is further perpetuated since it's like the way he fights, or like the best way to like fight him is just, maintain your distance. Overall, quite a disappointing secret mini boss, I guess. Now, moving on to fourth is Kanghui. So Kanghui spawns minions such as, the flying monster, the dogs, and also the prison warden that you have to go through a stealth mission sector in the game. I believe this is the only boss where you had to use the hacking minigame to deal damage to it significantly. I put him like above the rest because as much as people didn't like Kanghui, maybe some people just don't like that fight where it's like it summons like a bunch of mobs, but to me it was fairly, an easy boss because you can just maintain a little bit of your distance and you can just it's easy to figure out when to parry when it comes to like the dogs and then the flying ones, especially with when you have air parry in it. You can just spam air parry and it's gonna parry no matter what. You can use the bow to wipe out the mobs, and when you're up against the warden, okay, it can be the most annoying part of the game, but when it comes to the warden, it can kind of, CC the warden or something, like prevent him from reviving a bit and focusing on like Kanghui or like the big faced monster. So overall, it was a pretty, decent fight. I don't have any problem against this gimmick boss at all. So he respectively lands at the the low 4th ranking. Now moving on is Goumang. For Goumang, her fight is more like, the test of crowd control. She basically controls two minions that kind of fit with her theme of being like, a dummy mommy. She controls one big guy and controls like a smaller guy, and each of them have like different attacks. The big guy can do a red charged attack. The other smaller dude can do like, fast attacks. And then you can just focus on one of them down, and then you can now focus on Goumang herself and just take off a bit of damage. Goumang lands 5th in the place because the other bosses, they're just, way more fun to play against, since it is a 1v1 and they have like better mechanics or like better movesets that are like, kinda spice up the gameplay. Yeah, she lands respectfully at like the lower 5th. So now moving on my list is Yanlao, and he's like, for him it's like, he has two phases, right? Where he uses giant claw. For Yanlao's claws, he charges at you, like, I don't know how many times, but like sometimes there are some lasers he can shoot. He can stop his charge attack, so that's it. His first phase is extremely easy, but I did have that one playthrough where I just got my ass whooped because, in this game, I don't think you have any, when you're knocked down, you have frames where you can like be invincible. So if you're knocked down and you get back up, you're just gonna get attacked if the boss has like a continuous attack. That's what happens with when I fought against Kwafu, but beyond that, it's not that much. Now phase 2 does change it up a bit, because phase 2 has some changes such as the simple attacks. Basically, each and every of his attacks is being supported by that one specific laser that moves left and right, so it kind of adds some sort of like a bit of difficulty or complexity into the game. Yeah, it's basically, now it's like a test of whether you can platform in this game or not. Now, moving on is Kwafu, or you're fighting General Yingzhao. Now, he's one of the major story bosses. One of the first major story bosses you have to fight. He's more of a test of basics, right? He has a slower red charge attack, so people can, get used to the red charge attack in the game, whereas compared to further bosses throughout the game, they have a way faster charge attack. He doesn't really have much in his kit. Basically, just keeps charging and then, hitting you. It's easy to parry him. He just, swings forward, does that one shiny attack. And then in phase 2 is that one charge attack that changes things up, like the mid-air. But then again, you can just mid-air parry him. He's not that, hard, but I will just say he's like extremely fun since he is in the early game. Yeah, he lands respectfully this in the list. So moving on are the Feng Twins. So the Feng bosses have like two phases. The first one is like, first phase extremely easy because the attacks are done by like a huge dude. They're really predictable compared to G, especially thanks to like his large swings and indicators. You can even do like the first phase, you can easily do a no damage run when it comes to the first phase. Now the second phase is fun but can be annoying in RNG, like especially the snakes. It can be annoying because you have to like put some distance. It reminded me a bit of like Hollow Knight, where you have to like maintain your distance, and sometimes when you parry, you move a little bit backward and then you hit like where you get hit into like an obstacle where it can damage you. Yeah, that one big attack where the big Fang charges a red attack while the other Fang shoots like two projectiles, which can get you off guard. I'm pretty sure you can just, boundless counter that by holding the parry button upon like the second projectile, since once Yi gets hit by like the second projectile and the big red attack comes in, you could just boundless parry it. Yeah, the Fang second phase kinda is annoying, but if you can get behind the RNG, like, it's basically similar to the first phase. It's gonna be easy, There's like, projectiles? It's not that hard. So he lands respectfully in this list. Now moving on is G. So G is more like the test of air parry. Now what I don't like about G is that he doesn't have a first phase. And the other is that he may not be difficult since you most likely have all the toolkits or movements available in the game, and it doesn't really expand that much. He can be like the third or fourth last boss you fight depending on who you fight first, whether it be the Fangs or whether it be G. I fought G after fighting the Fangs. He was like extremely easy. It's like let's just say like an easier version of Lady Ethereal. Like if G and Lady Ethereal swapped in terms of encounters, the G's fight would be more difficult, but since you're already late into this game, the fight is like extremely easy. Now, I will say that the nature and the theme of the fight is pretty fun because you're fighting like this ancient being. He can shoot like a black hole, has like a thing that can that drops in like a barrier, and then you have to dodge through it. He can shoot like knives that shoots back at you, pumps back at you. He has like a red charge phase for you to attack, for you to like, you know, air parry or like, you know, downward attack into. So overall, I think I died to G like one time. When fighting G, it was more like I wish he had like a third phase, you know, in order to continue the fight because yeah. Let's say if you defeated G, you probably can clear the rest of the game. He has that one gimmick I forgot to add, which you can choose what you get killed by when he does like the. So he has that one phase where you can choose the three circular things that move around him. You can choose whether he drops a healing, whether he keeps shooting knives, or he shoots a black hole or something. Yeah, he has that one gimmick, but overall G just lands into this place. He's not too difficult since you're already far into the game, but not that easy enough. He's more like he's a test of what you have really learned so far. But you know, you can just air parry him all the time, and then you know you can just win. So moving on to the list is Jiequan. Now, for Jiequan, when it comes to the OST, I think he has one of the best ones out there. This is the fight where you can decide to plant poison or not. I decided to plant the poison. I think the poison does is allows you to, he basically CCs himself. He tends to cough, so you know, he can deal more damage. At this point of the game, you're introduced to boundless counters, and you really have to use that against him. I died like what, less than 10 times against him, but whenever I was, you know, doing those stats, whenever I was dying, it's mostly because I wanted to test my parry and reaction, my boundless counters against him, because he was like a fun fight, especially the music kinda, you know, hypes you up, especially the story. At the point of the story, he kinda, you know, destroyed you in his first fight. Overall, it's like a fun fight because he's fast. He tests your parry and reaction. He basically is telling you, hey, beyond this point, you have to learn your boundless counters. And at that point of time, boundless counters were like the, you know, you can think of it as like a bigger parry, and it was more fun to, you know, execute against those bosses. So overall, against Jiequan has basically the benefits of being introduced to boundless parry, the story revolving around him, the theme, his OST. It's all good. So yeah, Jiequan lands in this place, like, you know, third most fun boss to fight, thanks to all the many factors that really help him. So moving on to the second of the rankings is Lady Ethereal. If this was a tier list that is all about gooning, she would take the spot. Goumang and Lady Ethereal would fight against each other. If Goumang was like the dummy mommy, then Ethereal is the milky mommy. So now moving back to the topic, Lady Ethereal as a boss, she has like 3 phases compared to like all the other bosses like Jiequan, and others. She has a varying attacks wherein she can shoot many projectiles. Has similar attack patterns like the Hollow Knight's twin, what you may call this, the Mantis bosses, wherein she can summon minions to attack you from the left and from the right with the same moves, and then she follows it up with like a downward slam. The first phase is easy. The second and the third phase, that's where, you know, most of the difficulty comes in because it's more fast, it's more unpredictable. But as the fight goes on, you realize, oh, it's actually just easy. You just have to like air parry most of them. All you have to do is just air parry her, and it's like she becomes like an easy boss. Now, what really puts her at the top of the list for me is like she has the same reasoning as for Jiequan. So just like Jiequan, Lady Ethereal's fight is carried by some, you know, well, maybe some factors related to the fight. Like, for instance, her fight's themes being like, you know, oh shit, you're actually fighting in her, you know, domain expansion or in her mind dreamscape. And she's especially carried hard by the OST and the, you know, the weird background that's happening in the fight is happening. This fight gives you a glimpse of what the Nine Souls developers have done in their previous games. I believe they made like 2 horror games before, one of them being very popular and being banned in China. I'm not sure. At the point of time you're fighting Lady Ethereal, you don't really know that much of the mechanics, so part of the fun is like learning, you know, how to beat her. Whereas at the point of time when you're fighting G, you probably know all about the game at that point, so I place Lady Ethereal highly on the list, being like the second most fun boss to fight against. Now moving on is Eigong. Now Eigong is the ultimate challenge of the fight and she has the most fun. Compared to like the other bosses, you don't really get opportunity to use her basic attacks because she attacks quite often and is fast. She has like one of those confusing moves. It's whether when she's doing the red attack, either she goes forward to you or she drops like a spirit bomb on your ass wherein you can boundless parry. She has that like what those cool ass swords master animations where they move forward and then she leaves behind like slashes. Compared to all the other bosses, Eigong took me more than 20 tries, whereas the other bosses, they're like what, below 5 tries. I believe Jiequan was like the one who I beat in under like what, more than 10 tries. But when it comes to Eigong, she's like at least 20 plus tries, because it's not because I was a noob. Okay, maybe that was a part of it, but because it was more so, it was fun exploring her skill set, and then her move speed and her move set is just quite different compared to all the other bosses. She has like what, second or third phase depending on what route of the story you chose in. I chose the true ending of the story, so basically, I had to fight her third phase. Her second phase is like she had like that double charge attack, or rather like where she charges up her sword. You can stun her to prevent that, but for me it was more fun like parrying her moveset. And now moving on to the third phase, that's where a lot of things, you know, a lot more combo variations have happened, because you can like continue combo spamming you even if you boundless counter her, because there was one point where you can boundless counter her and then she just goes straight forward for like a slash at you, or like she passes by you and drops that, the swordsman, like, 3 slashes coming back at your ass. But yeah, so Eigong is basically the ultimate challenge of the game, and she's basically the most fun because after like Lady Ethereal, there's not that much room left for you to grow as a player. You already have all the skill sets, you already have all the move sets and many others, and like Eigong's basically the one that tests your like end game skill. So at that point, I would consider it to be the most fun boss in Nine Souls to fight against. For some, it might take her under less than an hour. For me, it took me at least like what, an hour to beat her, like, that one other ending, and took me on like another hour to finish her in her third phase. But I will say again, the reason why I died so many times is because I really wanted to do like a no damage run on Eigong. I think everybody can agree that she should be like the undisputed rank 1 most fun boss in Nine Souls. So with that comes the end of this video. I hope you all enjoyed the Nine Souls ranking of, worst to best like bosses to fight. Once again, I'm saying try out Nine Souls. It's a great game. I highly recommend the game, especially for its Sekiro like combat, the bosses, and especially the story. It did make me tear up a bit, or like make me a bit emotional as everything unravels. So make sure to leave a like, comment, share, and especially subscribe if you enjoyed this content. I greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.